Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about from season 4, episode 4 of Myth and Monsters. So I'm late with this review, my bad. And tonight's episode comes out. And so this episode gives us some bit more detail into certain things, and people tend to go split up and do their own group stuff. I do like the fact that it's slowly building to something. It's slowly building to the man in the yellow suit. But I do need some more paranormal freakiness, and I need some more monster type stuff. This season is lacking both. I truly believe it's because of a budget reason. It has to be. Something strange is going on with the way we watch TV now. Back in the day, when a show starts off, it has a small budget, and as season per season comes, the budget increases and more cool stuff happens. Now it's the complete opposite, to where when you get towards the end of a series, you barely have a budget, like with The Boys and everything. And that's because of ads, commercials, and stuff. Commercial ads help pay for a television show. And broadcast TV has ads. But streaming really does not, unless you're like me and go the cheap route and you have to suffer through ads. But other people don't like that. And so there are no ads. And so this is why a lot of television shows just don't have the money that they used to when they first started streaming and everything. That sucks. And so because of that, like I said before, you watch those first 2 seasons, boy, things were nuts and everything. And I mean, really nuts. And so it's a little bit more quieter now, but it's still interesting. But I miss the way the show used to be. And so, to recap some of the stuff that happened, not in no particular order or anything like that, but first let's start off with Fatima. Fatima, we now finally know what the heck she wanted. Oh God, I can't think of his name. Why am I freezing on names right now? I want to say Eugene, Elgin. That's it. We now know what she wanted that dirt for. Kenny finds her in the room because water is leaking through the ceiling. So when he goes to investigate, I was just like, what is she doing? What is she doing? Then we finally see what she's doing. And it's kind of like, oh, that's what you're doing? I was hoping it was going to be something like she got a vision from the monster people. She's kind of going crazy. No, she's doing some type of protective type thing. She's building a golem out of dirt and mud on water, stuff like that. And she's building it, and she tells Boyd and everything, her culture believes in this creature type thing that's supposed to help protect you. And we get a little bit into her backstory with her father and how he told her about this and stuff like that. So she's looking for some type of protective statue type thing, and a golem. It's interesting. I've heard so many different cultures that do golems, but mostly white European cultures and stuff. Because I've seen so many different type of golems. They're normally these big, large, monstrous type things that are here to protect people and stuff. But I never heard from one from her culture before, so that's kind of interesting. So she's just happy making her little mud creature thing, and Boyd and Kenny just gonna let her do it and everything. I do now wonder if this golem will have some type of protective power like the talismans and stuff. 4 seasons in, and we still don't know where the heck those talismans came from and why they have protective powers. This is what the show should have done instead of going very, very slowly this season. Julie and Randall are still trying to figure out this whole dream walking thing. They have Ethan's books and they've been reading through them. And so she has a theory because she found somebody in his book that dream walks and everything. If you mark a territory, then maybe you can dream walk to that specific place and everything. So this is what she's going to do. She gets like a sheet of paper, she makes the mark and stuff like that, and hoping that it will take her where she needs to go so she can change time. And he's going to pull out when things start to get a little freaky. We now find out how she got short hair in the future. It's a really stupid reason. Like, I assume maybe it's just so far in the future that, she just decided to cut her hair and this is how you can distinguish her and stuff. No, she says she cut it because the last time she dream walked, one of those monster people grabbed her by the hair. Now she's all like, I cut my hair, now they can't grab nothing. Yes, they can. It's shoulder length hair. You can grab that. That makes absolutely no sense. And it doesn't explain why her hair is so dark now. Anyway. But I will say, because she's lost a tiny bit of weight, this wig type thing is not doing her no favors. She needs that long hair. In a way, she time travels, but it's not to where she wants to go. Instead, she travels back to when Victor was a little kid, and we see the man in the yellow suit. And what's interesting about this is just like with the monster lady, he can see her. And she startles him at first. And what's so interesting about him, we're starting to learn a little bit more. He's now pale skinned. He looks zombified. And he's eating flesh from people and stuff. And as he's coming towards her, Randall pulls her out. So whatever this creature type thing is, it has to feed on actual living flesh. Which, if that is so, why doesn't it take a person every night? So it makes you wonder, like, maybe when he feeds, he doesn't have to feed for like a very long time, like certain animals and stuff, like tarantulas. You give them a bunch of like flies to eat or bugs, and they're good for like a couple of hours or so, or maybe a little bit longer than that. And it doesn't explain how he got his powers and stuff. But then there's the question of the monster people. Whenever we see them kill somebody, we never see them eat nobody. They just rip your flesh out and everything, your organs. But we never see them give the bodies to him because the bodies are just laid out dead. So they need to explain this a heck of a lot more. Because, they just do. So Tabitha hasn't told Henry yet about the whole reincarnation and how she's his former wife and everything like that. But Victor decides to tell, everybody else about this whole man in the yellow suit. Because Jade and all them found him pissed in his pants and everything. And Jade is pretty worried. He's all, I saw a grown man piss his pants and everything. We need to take this seriously, you know what I'm saying? And so, and he tells, his father why this man scares him so much and what happened to Miranda. He tells him that, the way he became all by himself for all those decades was because every living person that was with him got eaten by the man in the yellow suit. And especially his mother. And he drew pictures of that. And his dad could not take it and became hysterical and everything, knowing that his wife that he loved so much got ate up like a wild animal out in the wild and everything. Now here's the interesting thing that I just now started thinking about. Where is Victor's sister? Has she been retconned out of the show? Think about it. The first 2 seasons, there's no mention of her whatsoever. And then in the third season, they decided that he now has a sister that he supposedly forgot about. The sister went after the mom. Now, if what he says is true, then the sister should technically be eaten and everything. But why is she never in no more flashbacks? Why hasn't her father mentioned her? Why hasn't Tabitha mentioned her? Why hasn't Victor mentioned her since season 3? What the heck is going on with this? This is one of those things where the writers just threw things at the wall and hoping that it would stick. I'm hoping they did not retcon her out the show after retconning her in, because that would be so stupid. So we get some stuff with Sarah and Sophia, the man in yellow. And it was nice to have some stuff with Sarah this time, other than her just, saying hey to people and stuff like that, or little tiny stuff. Elgin, she sees Elgin and she gets worried, like, oh, I gotta go. Because, of course, she gouged his eye out and everything. But he has a heart to heart with her and everything. But, Sophia, man in yellow, wants to live with that of Sarah. And so it's kind of like, what is he going to do to her? I wonder. Because remember, she used to hear those voices and she killed people for him. Well, they start talking this and that. And, she starts to hear more voices again, courtesy of the man in the yellow. And he wants her to go to the diner, pour up a glass of water, drink it, then pour the glass back in the pitcher. She thinks this is kind of weird, and I agree. It's kind of like, oh, okay, now he's just playing with her, having a little fun, right? But she's worried because she's all like, what if this sickness that she has of hearing voices, what if she infects others by giving them like the water? So she's contemplating if she should do that or not, because if she doesn't, he's gonna hurt somebody. So she goes there and she's contemplating and she decides she drinks the water, but she's not gonna pour it back in the pitcher. And she talks to the bus driver who now works at the diner. Man, I have forgotten all about this woman. They don't do nothing with her. Same thing with Chrissy's girlfriend. They need to get some dead weight off this show. And so, like, what is it? So she thinks, and I was proud of her. She didn't do what he wanted her to do, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, she's showing that she's stronger and she's not going to believe these voices and make the same mistakes that she did last first season. But then the man in yellow, he causes himself to get hurt. And she's all like, oh no, because I didn't pour the water back in the pitcher. Now somebody got hurt. So sadly, she gave in to the man in the yellow, and she drank the water and poured it back in the pitcher. And I was like, nah, man, like, you stood up to that crap and wasn't going to believe into it. So now it makes you wonder, what else would she be willing to do as long as nobody get hurt? Would she kill again, I wonder? He's going to test her. And when Sophia was talking about all this crap, she started talking about the Bible and that of Abraham and how God wanted him to, like, murder his son. And he was contemplating, and, right before he was going to do it, God made him stop and say, I didn't want you to kill your son. I just wanted to see would you be willing to do it because I asked you to. And so the man in the yellow literally is referring to himself like he is God. But the thing he wanted Sarah to do is very devilish. A trickster type thing, like the devil and everything. So this is still my theory that he is some type of version of like the devil, and the boy in white is some type of version of God. Tabitha, she is just like, she has a lot, on her shoulders. You got Julie doing her thing, which she has no idea what Julie is doing. You have Ethan looking for like the Lake of Tears and everything, and she wants to know why didn't he go to her instead of going to Victor and like Jay about the whole lake. And it's simply because she would never believe him or let him do it. And he's right about that and stuff. And so she decides she's gonna spend some time with him. And when they go on like the food hunt and everything with Donna and like the rest. And so while they're out there, they see a lake and everything. And one of the guys who's like an extra started pulling on the rope, and he pulls something out of the water. What that something is, at that point in time, just don't know yet and everything until like the next episode, which, like I said before, comes out tonight and stuff. So still is a bit of a slow burn, but with this slow burn, we are slowly starting to learn more and more detail. They really need to ramp it up. And they also need to do some freaky deaky paranormal stuff like they did in those other seasons. And we need some scary horror stuff. Alright, that is what got me hooked on this show. What got me hooked on this show was first the horror, then the supernatural freakiness, and they're not doing that. I could care less about them being stuck in this part of town and can't escape. I want to see the horror and I want to see the freaky deaky supernatural stuff. That really what got a lot of people interested in this show. But now they're going into like reincarnations. They don't explain why the boy in white is aging and everything after all these like decades. And of course, it's because the actor is getting older, which they should have just recasted. Got the man in the yellow suit where he's just like playing tricks and everything, and it's like, what is his end game? And is Julie gonna be able to dream walk, and how much of the past is she gonna be able to change because of the simple fact she's been doing this for a long time, because the man in yellow has seen her a couple of times and keeps telling her no matter how many times you try, you're not going to change the future, which means she's been at this for a very long time. But what's going to make the difference now if she changes everything? So it's one of those things where the show is kind of just writing itself into an itty bitty corner. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.